Picture this. You are sitting at a family dinner. The table is crowded, plates are half full, someone's passing the salad, and there's that low hum of overlapping conversations and clinking cutlery. You are relaxed, you are laughing, and then without thinking too much about it, you say something you know happened, something you saw with your own eyes. You just wanted to share it as an anecdote. Maybe it's about a fight between relatives last summer, or the way a family decision was made without you, or how someone treated you at a wedding. You expect the usual banter, maybe even a debate, but instant the air shifts. Your aunt tilts her head with that slow, deliberate pause that makes you feel like a child again and says, "That's not how it happened." Your cousin laughs under their breath. You do not tend to exaggerate, And the person you trust most at the table, your partner, avoids your gaze entirely, choosing to swirl the wine in their glass as if it has suddenly become fascinating. Within minutes, the conversation has moved on, but you are left frozen in place, your fork halfway to your mouth, your heart beginning to pound, because if they all agree it didn't happen, then maybe, just maybe, you are misremembering. You start doubting the story and yourself, and that seed of doubt doesn't vanish when dessert is served. It lingers. It follows you home. It shows up in your dreams. You may think of it as a faulty memory, yourself being dramatic. But this is cultural gaslighting, a slow, patient training in doubting your own perception, in swallowing the version of reality the group finds most convenient. And if you have grown up being told to apologize for things you didn't do just to keep the peace, you have been rehearsing for this moment your whole life. This is Rashmi. Welcome to Anthropologically Yours. Now let's pull you out of that dining table room and drop you into 1940. Winston Churchill steps to the microphone after the Dunkirk evacuation, a military retreat that should have been remembered as a disaster. But the words he chooses are a miracle of deliverance. And an entire country leans forward, exhales, and believes him. Because the story has been rewritten in real time, and it's easier and perhaps even necessary. Necessary to believe the new version than to sit with the dread of the old one. Whether it's in your kitchen or on the world stage, the mechanism is the same. Reshape reality until people find it more comfortable to doubt themselves than to doubt you. Let's talk about gaslighting as a cultural habitat. Gaslighting, more than just a cruel manipulation used by villains in movies. We all love movies, right? So let's talk about it. In its cultural form, it's far more elegant, far more insidious, and infinitely more common. It's the unspoken group agreement to bend reality so that it serves the comfort, the power, or the survival of the group. You can see it in family stories retold so often that inconvenient details quietly disappear. In workplaces where the official reason for a failed project protects those at the top, and in relationships where a partner says, "That's not what I meant," or "You are remembering it wrong," until you start checking your own feelings against their approval. The psychologist Dr. Robin Stern calls it the gaslight effect. That slow erosion of your inner compass until you outsource your reality, checking to the very person distorting it. It's more than being lied to. It's about learning to live inside the lie and call it a home. More like the Stockholm Syndrome, right? So, what's the performance of power here? Gaslighting doesn't just thrive in relationships. It's the lifeblood of performance cultures, places where perception is currency. Julius Caesar didn't just conquer lands, he conquered the narrative, selling his rise to absolute power as a return to republican values. Napoleon knew how to turn small victories into legends that would inspire loyalty. Cleopatra blurred politics and performance so masterfully that she became the living embodiment of a goddess. And here's the science. Once we have emotionally invested in a leader, confirmation bias kicks in. Our brains will filter out anything that contradicts the negative image, the image we have bought into. We don't want to rewrite our loyalty, so we let them rewrite the facts instead. So, the gaslighting around us in the corporate world. In corporate life, gaslighting often comes dressed in polished language and quarterly review slides. I have been in meetings where a project failed because the leadership team ignored every red flag, every bottlenecks. But by the time the post-mortem was done, the narrative had shifted already. The market wasn't ready, or we were too innovative for the times. Failure became foresight, and no one dared point out the sleight of hand. Think of Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. For some time, it was empowering. And for some people, it was reframed systematic inequality as a personal mindset problem, subtly shifting the blame onto women who weren't leaning in enough. Bill Gates, once branded an aggressive monopolist, recast himself as the world's most famous philanthropist. Steve Jobs turned failed product launches into charming anecdotes about creativity and risk. The trick here is it's convincing you that the truth is something bigger than you can understand. So now, this brings me to talk about religion and politics when gaslighting becomes holy. The faith, politics, and the sanctified rewrite. Margaret Thatcher's austerity measures, deeply unpopular, were sold as a moral crusade to save Britain. Mother Teresa's work was defended as divine sacrifice, even when the suffering in her missions were questioned. Medieval Catholicism sold indulgences, literal financial transactions, as act of spiritual mercy. When you identify that the identity is tied to a belief system, contradicting this story feels like it's betraying your tribe. So you protect the story, even at the cost of your own lived experience. So, now let's get into the private room gaslight. The most dangerous gaslighting is beyond in speeches, interventions, or meetings. It's in rooms without cameras where it can be brushed off as just a misunderstanding. Relatives do it when they rewrite family history to recast themselves as the heroes. You were too young to understand, or it was for your own good. Toxic partners do it daily, framing betrayal as a miscommunication or calling your anger proof that you are too emotional. Over time, you stop trusting your gut and start checking your reality against theirs. As an immigrant in Scotland, I have experienced the cultural version. A friend or a colleague dismissing racism or exclusion as just you're not understanding the humor or you're reading too much into it. It sounds like guidance. It feels like advice, but it's erasure. Gaslighting works because it hijacks our need to belong. It convinces us that harmony is worth more than our own truth. So, how to spot it and how to guard yourself against it? Gaslighting leaves fingerprints. Once you learn the patterns, you will see them in your inbox, at your dinner table, even in your group chats. So, what are they? Let me guide you. Moving goalposts. Yesterday's truth quietly becomes today's mistake, and you are expected to keep up without asking questions. Pack agreement. When 2 or 3 people start repeating the same false version, it feels safer to doubt yourself than to challenge them. Memory shaming. Subtle digs like you are imagining it, or you're too sensitive, you are sentimental, which slowly corrode your self-trust. And then story inflation. Minor events from the past, retold as dramatic or heroic to change the way you feel about them. So to protect yourself, you need an anchor. Write it down. Even a scribbled note on your phone is a receipt of reality. Ask for specifics. What exactly do you mean? Leaves less space for the story to morph. Step outside the echo chamber, run your version by someone who wasn't there. Before you try to confront it, name it to yourself first. My version is being dismissed. Awareness is just not enough. You have to keep a copy of your truth in a place no one else can edit. Take control of it. So gaslighting works because we have been taught it's more polite to let someone else's version stand, that it's safer to keep the peace than to risk the discomfort of disagreement. But every time you let the story shift without challenge, you hand over another piece of your own reality. The world will always be dancing in its own tunes. The question is, are you going to keep clapping? Don't just ask, did that even happen? Ask, who benefits from believing this? Who benefits from me believing this? Gaslighting may always not be malicious, to be honest. Sometimes it could be a survival tactic. Sometimes it's a cultural reflex, but not at the cost of your sanity. Maybe you did it once as well, or several times in your own life, but now it's time to acknowledge it and be better. But if you don't guard your own memory, someone else will definitely morph it, rewrite it, and you will end up thanking them for the edit, would you? No, didn't think so. Thank you for joining me on Anthropologically Yours today. If this episode made you think about a conversation you had with someone in the past, or maybe something ongoing, or a moment you have been replaying in your mind for years, hold on to that. That's your mind fighting to keep the file intact. That's your file. That's your intellectual property. So license it. It's yours. I am Rashmi, and until next time, protect your reality. It's the only one you have got.